The thing I know about, I suppose, the work that I've done for most of my life is directing plays for the theatre. And I don't quite know how I started off directing plays for the theatre. In my family, although not for my parents or anything, I had some people who were kind of involved a little bit in the world of film and television when I was growing up. So I think I was quite excited by the idea of what shows were, and sometimes people talk about the director, etc. But I didn't really start directing until I was at school, and it was just something that I kind of just wanted to do, really. And I had a chance of directing a play when I was at school, and I just found it, I think, instantly kind of satisfying. When I go back in my life and talking to people about it, apparently I was quite withdrawn and quite rebellious and quite kind of closed up when I was younger. So it seemed like it was a kind of release of some kind. It seemed like being able to do this kind of work is something that, made me kind of sane in a certain kind of way. So it's kind of important, I think, to be able to express myself. And I suppose why I think directing plays is such a great thing to do is I think it's kind of three things, really. I think it's about kind of expressing yourself and your own journey in life, which of course is a constantly changing one. As you kind of go through life, things happen to you, changes happen to you. And in a way, finding work or text or to kind of express yourself in it means you're kind of constantly able to express something about your own kind of particular journey through life and kind of express it in a certain kind of way. But I also think, you kind of want to direct plays because you want to say something about the world you see around you. You want to kind of look at the world, you want to observe the world, and you want to try and do work that shares something with an audience that enables them to kind of feel, well, I mean, on one level, the best thing that can happen in a play is an audience comes and feels less alone at the end of it than perhaps when they first came. They become something, we've shared something, a community. But in a sense, I think also, because I have my own views about life and politics, etc., I suppose I do kind of feel that I want to do plays that look at human behaviour, that maybe talk about what we're like and what we have been like and what we may be like, with the idea that perhaps you're looking for plays about transformation and change in that way. So, in that sense, you kind of read the papers, you look at the news, you march, you talk to your friends, you're constantly in touch with what's going on, and you're trying to, I think, if you're directing a play, I always like to feel like I can be out on the street and walk into the rehearsal room. I don't feel like I'm going to some strange place, but somehow what's in the air is somehow in the play that you're actually working on. So I think it's there. And then the other thing, I suppose, is that the art of theatre, the form of theatre, is a constantly challenging one. I mean, as a director, it's a craft, it's a form. You're interested in different forms, whether you're doing devised work or whether you're doing a musical or whether you're doing a piece of kind of naturalistic, well-made drama. So you're constantly working within an existing form and a form that's constantly changing. So in a way, you're expressing something about yourself and you're trying to express something about the world, and you're trying to work in a form which is a constantly learning, challenging process. You're constantly wanting to do something different. Every time you do something, it's like, what does this form allow in that kind of way? And I suppose the other thing about directing a play, which is great, is because theatre's a collaborative piece of work. Theatre can only happen because a group of people get together and kind of fuse their imaginations and exchange something that enables something to happen. It means that you kind of are in a job where you kind of pour your own ego into something, but it can only make sense if it becomes a collective effort on whoever's working. So, for instance, on most productions I do, I'm going to work closely with about, I don't know, say up to about 20 people, I would say, in a very kind of close way, at least 10 to 15 in a very intense way, actors, designers, etc., but also the people who work on a show around it. So you're having to communicate and collaborate and find out what you're doing in a very intense kind of way, and that seems to me a really nice mode of existence of work, because you can express yourself fully and emotionally and passionately, and you kind of have to put everything you've got onto the table. But in a way, it only exists as a kind of group collective thing, which is far bigger than any one person's idea, and that seems to be a pretty good model for kind of life, basically, too. So the work and life kind of go together in that way. So I suppose that's what directing a play is about. practically, you can be thinking about doing a play for 5 years. You can be thinking about suddenly reading a play that makes you go, wow, I want to do this tomorrow. You never quite know where a play's going to come from, but some plays you think about quite deeply over a period of time. So when you actually do them, there's sometimes, I mean, for instance, I didn't understand Chekhov when I was in my 20s, apart from The Seagull, but something like Uncle Vanya as a play, I just thought was boring, you know. And then when I got to my 40s and I read the play, I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, I understand what this play's about. This is a play about being, you know. So, you know, plays change their nature that are already in existence. But I think practically I spend about 6 months kind of planning a play. You think about a play in a certain kind of way, you read quite a lot, you research a lot, you try and find, if it's a play that was written in the past, you try and find out about the writer, everything about the writer's voice, and everything about the political, historical context of how the play was written, and the theatrical context. So you do a lot of work, a lot of kind of research, which is a nice thing to be paid for, because you learn a lot about different areas of life. You learn about all sorts of different cultures, you learn all about different points in the history. So it's really great to work on, because you go, okay, this particular play, I've got to learn all about that. So it's a nice way to be paid and learn at the same time. And then you work closely with your designer to start off with, to kind of grow the world of the play that you want to do. And then you start casting, and that can take you know, over 2 or 3 months period, you know, 2 months period, and you can often see 100 people, 200 people. Sometimes it's people you know already who you want to work with. Sometimes you think about a play because it's to do with a particular performer. But it's a very ongoing process, and people keep on getting added to it. So you finally arrive at this theatre with a kind of 4-week rehearsal period, which is not very long, and you work very hard. You often work morning, afternoon and evenings, pretty much flat out for 5 weeks. And then you open the play, and the play is on for a few weeks. And that's the journey of the play continues as long as it's on. You know, you have a thing called the first night with reviewers, but the journey of a play is always from the way you start to think about it yourself to the end of the last performance, really, in a way. And that's a kind of journey that changes and grows all the time. So it's quite a kind of deep-seated kind of work, and it goes through different kind of phases of being very much on your own and working and thinking and learning, and then gradually starting to collaborate with 1 or 2 or 3 people very closely. And then you suddenly end up on a first day of rehearsal at the Royal Exchange where the whole company is there, so you get, you know, up to 100, you know, over 50 people there to hear what you have to say about the play, and all your actors are there, and suddenly you're kind of rehearsing and working consistently with, as I say, about 20 people in a very kind of intense kind of way. So it's rather a nice way of working, really, because it has the solitary kind side of things, but also has the group side of it, and it has times of great tranquility to think about your work, and then times of extreme stress and crisis at the same time. So it's very much a kind of oscillating kind of journey, but one that's really worth doing.